The Asari Commandos are the most feared special forces in the galaxy on Mass Effect, and for good reason. Today we're going to talk about their origin, where they come from, their lore, and why they're so feared. This is Simon, and welcome to the Soapbox. Let's get started.
Have you faced an Asari Commando unit before? Few humans have.
You won't look so smug with a hole in your head.
Your insolence is a poor mask for your fear.
So when we dive into the lore behind the Asari Commandos, we first had to understand why they're so feared. For reference, right, the Asari are the oldest species in the Mass Effect universe, shy of obviously the Protheans. Now, again, every 50,000 years, right, the Reapers come in and they reset civilization. So they're not exactly the oldest over the entire galaxy, but within that current cycle, right, with the humans, Batarians, Vorcha, Citadel, right? The Asari are supreme. They are the first ones that reach the Citadel. They're the oldest, and they have the longest lifespans. For reference, right? There are Asari in Mass Effect games 1, 2, and 3 where their parents fought in the Krogan Wars. That is insane lifespan we're talking about.
Young males have an unhealthy obsession with my species.
When we account for how old the Asari are and how old their civilization is and how long their lifespans are, it begins to make sense why they're so feared. For reference, the average Asari lives for almost 1,000 years. So 50,000 years is 50 generations of Asari, and it shows in their training and their culture.
Just take care of yourself out there, okay, kid?
I will, Dad.
Hey. I've called a few friends. Commandos. Eclipse girls who owe me some favors. They're all yours. Just tell them where to go.
You're giving me Asari Commandos?
Well, you're too old for me to buy you a damn pony.
You're the best father a girl could wish for.
And the reason why I bring the extremely long lifespan of the Asari up is because that kind of encapsulates how important the Asari Commandos are to the culture of the Asari. The original Asari hunters, right, the apex of their civilization started on Thessia. They were originally the bodyguards and guardians of their homeworld, again, Thessia. So they started out as hunters, right? So how it worked was the Asari would come together and they would choose amongst themselves their most powerful biotics. Again, the Asari are naturally gifted with biotic capabilities, and this shows with the hunters. When the hunters, what they would do is they would go through this process and they would determine who was the best, right? And this was a long, arduous process with meditation, with weapons training, and with particular hunting. They would hunt down criminals on Thessia to prove that they were capable of becoming a commando. But again, you gotta understand, the commandos are what we currently know them as. When Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 weren't known as commandos at the time, they were known as hunters. As the Asari civilization evolved and they moved out across the stars and interacted with different civilizations, their capabilities and the role within their society changed. They went from being hunters and guardians of the homeworld into a specialized task group. And that's why it's important to understand the Asari Commandos aren't necessarily special forces as we see them, right? So we got Turian special forces, we have the special task groups of Solarians, we have the N7 of the humans. The Commandos, right, the Asari hunters, aren't really an organized central command structure like the N7 or the Turian or CSEC or anything like that. They're literally their own people. So what I mean by that is they're individual hunters. What happens is the Asari government will find a target, or they'll find outliers, political enemies, XYZ, and they'll send in commandos, hunters. These are singular agents that work on their own. They have no support, and they're just that powerful.
Let's finish this! All right, Eclipse, let's... I need backup now!
Indeed.
And that's where that quote, "Have you ever dealt with Asari Command before?" If you have, comes in and why it's so relevant. Very few people cross paths with Asari Commando and live, because these are specialized hunters, assassins, spies that come in stealthily. They see the target, they slip in behind enemy lines, they take out the target, and they vanish. These are not a sledgehammer. The Asari Commandos, think of them as a scalpel. They're not a sledgehammer, they're not all-purpose task group, they're not meant to lead attacks or anything like that, like the N7 and the Turian Special Forces. They are singular agents sent in to take out single targets. And this shows from their training, right? Because they're, again, we gotta understand, it's the Asari huntresses, the hunters that are selected become commandos. After years, decades of training, they get that title of commando. So if they're singular hunters, how are they integrated into the overall arcing big picture of the military? Well, so the Asari military as a whole, they have their navy, they have their army, and they have specialized task groups. What will usually happen is an Asari commando will be inserted into one of those elements, and they are a force multiplier. So if we got a regular squad of Asari infantry, or let's maybe say a ship is boarding another ship, what will end up happening is the main body will do the fighting, and then the commando will insert herself into where she can do the most damage.
Commander, I'm pleased to hear the Yakshi situation has been put to rest.
Should I guess you're our contact inside Asari High Command, Counselor?
I'm merely here to convey the gratitude of the Asari people for concluding a difficult, sensitive mission. The next team of commandos we were sending to the monastery are now en route to Admiral Hackett instead. Farewell, Commander.
And that's why Samara, even though she's not a commando, is a perfect example of this template. We are talking about thousands of years of training, combat experience, and the ability to be the best. These are the apex predators of the Asari people, and that is why they're so respected. This has been Simon. Welcome to the Soapbox. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to subscribe and follow. I post one long form a week as long as shorts every single day. Thank you for stopping by.